now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. 4 members of a family lost their lives when a relative went on a stabbing spree in Queens.
Well, developing a new police are still working to determine why a man went on a stabbing spree in Queens over the weekend, killing 4 members of his own family and injuring 2 officers. We have just learned they've both been released from the hospital. CBS 2's Elijah Westbrook has this report from Far Rockaway.
Well, among the dead this afternoon are 2 children, an 11 and 12-year-old. We're also learning a 61-year-old woman is fighting for her life. This is all coming as investigators, as we speak, are working to determine what led up to this deadly rampage and why the suspect, who's accused of doing what he did inside this home here on Beach 22nd Street. Police still remain at the home more than 24 hours after 4 people were murdered. Investigators say this man, 38-year-old Courtney Gordon from the Bronx, went on a stabbing spree early Sunday morning against his own family members. Why remains the big question.
He just said to me, "Mama, I love you." I say, "I love you too, son." He texts me and tell me how much he loves me.
It's a lot for the family. It's a whole lot. Because it's all family. It's a lot right now.
That's the suspect's mother and sister who say they can't seem to wrap their heads around this one. Police say Gordon's rampage also involved a 61-year-old woman who was fighting for her life. This all happening just moments after police say the man set a couch on fire inside the home and then slashed 2 responding officers when they got to the scene. The NYPD says those officers shot and killed the suspect. One of those officers, a 20-year vet of the department, is now out of the hospital. Video here at Jamaica Medical Center shows him being wheeled out by staff and receiving applauses from fellow officers.
These 2 police officers, without hesitation, they responded to this job, putting themselves in harm's way. But this is a tough day.
Now, the family says Gordon suffered from depression. The NYPD reports that he was arrested in the past for a domestic violence dispute. Right now, it's under investigation why he behaved so violently that night. That's the latest here from Far Rockaway, Queens. I'm Elijah Westbrook, CBS 2 News.
Now, in this alleged incident that took place last week in Queens, 38-year-old Courtney Gordon allegedly stabbed and murdered 4 of his family members, ranging in age from 12 to 44 years old, and wound up severely injuring the 61-year-old aunt who took him into her home. Now, after going on a stabbing spree in the home he was staying in, Courtney Gordon took his rampage allegedly onto the streets, and as he allegedly took his rampage onto the streets, he was confronted by police officers and lunged at them allegedly with the knife. And as he lunged with them with the knife, stabbing the officers, they wound up taking out their firearms and returning fire, shooting and killing Courtney Gordon and taking his life. Now, the NYPD sees the stabbing rampage that Courtney Gordon participated in as something that happened as an episode related to his declining mental health. However, when I take a critical examination of Courtney Gordon's alleged actions, they clearly fit the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And it's clear to me that Courtney Gordon possibly was a ticking time bomb for an extended period of time, and the family just didn't know what to do in the situation regarding this man who was in crisis. Now, Courtney Gordon's whole life started to go into a state of decline a couple of months ago, according to Sean McCoy, Courtney Gordon's cousin, and he says that his cousin was once a happily married man with 3 kids and a stable job, but his behavior recently took a 180-degree turn. And I have to wonder if that 180-degree turn had to possibly do with the use of marijuana, because the behavior that I hear from the reports of Courtney Gordon participating in as related to his decline really fits that whole pattern that I've seen what happens with some people who smoke marijuana, in that their brain chemistry changes after smoking marijuana, and this whole change in their brain chemistry leads to them having a decline in their mental health. Because usually what happens with some marijuana users is that after they smoke marijuana, what happens is, again, their brain chemistry changes and their behavior goes from being stable to becoming extremely erratic. And as their behavior becomes erratic, they go from being people who can go out here and hold a job and maintain a family to going out here and becoming very erratic, like his cousin says, where he became just disrespectful, loud, and wanting to be superior and wanting to have this power over everyone. That possibly could have led to the chemical imbalance in his brain, and that chemical imbalance in his brain could have led to him going from being a man who was happily married with 3 kids and a stable job and being able to take care of his family to becoming an individual who was winding up becoming a person who walked away from his family, became dependent on relatives for his needs, and wound up being in a place where he could not function as an adult. Now, what I also believe exacerbated the whole situation in addition to possible marijuana use is also this man could have possibly been listening to trap house music, which oftentimes references killings and stabbings. And again, this combination of possible drug use and possible listening to this violent music could have gone out here and stimulated these spirits inside of him. And as these spirits were stimulated inside of him, these evil spirits, what could have possibly happened was his mental health went into a further state of decline, because as he was out here possibly taking these drugs, and I say possibly, this is me speculating, and listening to this music, this led to his behavior becoming very erratic to the point where he wanted to go out here and to try to get this power that he heard about in the music, and wanted people to be out here being scared of him. He basically wanted to be like the characters in this trap house and gangster rap music. And as he was out here looking to become like what he was listening to in the music, what happened, I believe, to Courtney Gordon was he went from being a functional adult to becoming a dysfunctional man in crisis. Now, as Courtney Gordon was going on this state of decline, what I believe happened was his family was trying to help him. And as his family tried to help him, he just became so out of control that the people on his mother's side basically put him out of the house because they could not really deal with him, and they could not deal with the fact that he could not respect the authority of the people who were running the home, could not respect the household. And while some people want to say, again, that it was mental health, I believe that his mental health went into a decline, possibly due to drug use. And that's the only observation I can make as related to this man's alleged behavior, because this is the type of decline I have seen with a lot of individuals who have sat there and smoked marijuana and then listened to gangster rap or trap house music. They become very erratic, similar to this, where they cannot function. And then as family tries to deal with them and their mental health declines, they wind up frustrated and overwhelmed because they are not mental health professionals and they don't know how to deal with this whole situation, because the person's brain has had a complete chemical imbalance change, and there's no way for them to deal with it by putting this person into some sort of 72-hour hold, because at this point this person still is considered to be of sound mind, and because they're still considered to be of sound mind, they cannot really do anything to help them. So as a result, this is why Courtney Gordon, basically after getting kicked out of the home that he was staying in on his mother's family side, he wound up wandering the streets and wound up homeless for a while, where he was just going out here drifting in life. And as he was drifting in life, this is where family on his father's side went out here and looked to try to take him in an effort to get him help, because they didn't want to see their family member, who was a possible respected family member at the time, wind up going out here and being on the streets when they could care for him. Unfortunately, many of these family members didn't understand they were dealing with a man who was a ticking time bomb, and were not really equipped to deal with somebody who basically had mental health issues due to this possible chemical imbalance in his brain due to the use possibly of marijuana. And as they tried to get him help, they reached out to a social justice nonprofit to try to get him help. Unfortunately, Courtney Gordon refused treatment, and as he refused treatment, they were stuck with this man who was a ticking time bomb, and wound up just simmering and boiling in rage from possibly all the music that he was listening to, all of this loud, I believe, trap house and gangster rap music. What happened to Courtney Gordon was, as he was sitting there and people were trying to help him, he wanted to tell them that they were the problem and he didn't have any issues. But it's clear to me that he did have issues, and those issues possibly had to do with him possibly out here participating in some possible drug use. I say possible again because I'm speculating based on what I have seen with other individuals growing up in the South Bronx. I mean, I have seen many individuals in the South Bronx wind up on a state of decline like this, and it usually starts with them smoking up. And after they start smoking up, they start listening to this music, which is always talking about violence, stabbings, killings, and death. And as they're in somebody's home, they just want to sit in their home and listen to this music and zone out. But they don't want to respect the authority of a person's home. And when people start to challenge them as related to their authority, and that's what leads to these individuals exploding in rage and looking to do harm to those that love them. Because what happens with guys like Courtney Gordon possibly are when they are addicted to these drugs and this music, what happens is they don't see people as people because they have completely changed. And that's the whole sad part about addiction. The person you knew is not the person in front of you, because the person who is in front of you has been transformed into a different creature by possible drug use and possibly imbibing this music, which is filled with a lot of dark demonic spirits. And whenever they see a family member look to stand up to them and assert authority and assert order over their home, that's when that individual winds up exploding in a rage, because you're challenging what makes their world smooth. And what possibly made Courtney Gordon's world smooth was his escape into this secret world of this music and these drugs. And as he looked to escape into this world, what he did was walk away from his good job, his family, of his wife and his 3 children, and his life went into a decline. And when his family was trying to give him a safety net, was trying to help him, he wound up exploding in a rage, where he wound up murdering 2 children and 2 adults, and then wound up hurting the very aunt who took him in. And this whole situation, sadly, is one that shows what happens when how dangerous it is to deal with a person who has possible addiction issues, because addiction and the man crisis is one of the more dangerous situations, one of the most dangerous next to sex crimes. And this whole situation shows how dangerous it is to deal with somebody who has addiction issues. And while you think you can help them by taking them in, sometimes the only way you can help an individual like this is to sadly let them hit rock bottom. And that's the sad part about this whole situation, but was about him was that Courtney Gordon, possibly the only way to help him was to put him in a mental health facility. But sadly, here in America, we don't take mental health seriously. And because we don't take mental health seriously, what happens is men like Courtney Gordon wind up falling through the cracks. And as they fall through the cracks, what happens is that these men whose lives are on the decline wind up becoming men in crisis. And as they become men in crisis, they became a danger to others and themselves. And that's shown here with Courtney Gordon's alleged actions, where he allegedly took the lives of 2 children, 11 and 12 years old, I believe, and took the lives of a young man and another 44-year-old individual, and also stabbed his aunt of 61 years old. I mean, he took all of these lives and changed one life and then wound up stabbing police officers. All of this because this man lost control from himself, and I believe possibly he wound up losing control of himself because he was smoking up listening to trap house music. And as he was listening to trap house music, he basically was turning his own home into a trap house where he was looking to go out here and participate in the violence he listened to in this music. And that's the whole sad thing about this whole situation, is that the family thought, oh, they could help him, but there was no helping this individual because he was a ticking time bomb. And sadly, a lot of family, they don't understand what's going on with a beta male, that they are a ticking time bomb. And in many ways, they are far beyond your capacity to help. And the only way that they can get help is from licensed professional mental health counselors who can diagnose their behavior and see the clear and present danger of their behavior. I mean, you need a professional to be able to objectively analyze this individual. Moreover, they need to be in a facility where they have to deal with authority figures who can assert hard authority and set hard boundaries. That's what you need in these situations with these individuals. But sadly, America does not invest in mental health facilities to be able to detain individuals like this so that they could possibly get the help that they need so that they can get back on track. Because again, when I listen to the story of Courtney Gordon, it really mirrors that of a lot of individuals I have read about whose life went into decline when they started smoking marijuana, like Amanda Bynes, who was a legendary Hollywood actress, was on her way to becoming a superstar. But after smoking marijuana, Amanda Bynes went on a major decline as related to her personal and professional life. And Amanda Bynes was basically wandering the streets naked at one point and just running wild until conservators took control over her and were able to get her the supervised care that she needed so that she would not go out here and do harm to herself or harm to others. But sadly, Courtney Gordon's family didn't have that kind of money to get that kind of support for him as related to dealing with his mental health issues. Mental health issues, I believe, that basically were triggered by a chemical imbalance in his brain, because what I've seen as related to mental health, as related to some people who use marijuana, is that after smoking this drug once, what happens is their whole brain chemistry changes, and that's what leads to a guy who was a functional man winding up becoming a man in crisis. Now, if you want to learn more about what leads to beta males participating in the dysfunctional pattern of behavior they participate in, and what leads to them winding up on the road to becoming, on the dysfunctional road to becoming a man in crisis, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble. And if you want to see me make more videos about men in crisis or men's issues, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available for the first time in paperback, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. Learn all the reasons why so many Black women can't find a husband and why 70% of Black women are single. Get your copy of Why 70% of Black Women Are Single on Amazon.com today.
Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.